But don't just put it away with the intent to pull it out later. Defect from it by turning away from it completely. Right. It's time for us to desert the things that have become gods in our lives. Right. God himself said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Am I right? Right. And anything that becomes more important to us than God has become, this thing has become a god in our lives, and it's time that we put it away by deserting it altogether. Right. If the pursuit of the almighty dollar has you compromising God's will in order to get it, it's become a god to you, and it's time for you to desert it. If your job or your schooling has you taking God's time on his day, it's become a god to you, and it's time for you to desert it. Yeah. If your car, your house, or your electronic toys and the like occupy the bulk of your thoughts, they become a god to you, and it's time to desert them. Yeah. If that significant other has you running in circles and jumping through hoops to please them, and you're actually doing it, I ain't playing no games for nobody. But us men, we know how we get. When that girl comes along, there's always one. For some of us, 2, 3, or 4 of them, you know, come around and have us doing all kind of crazy stuff. So we say, "I'll never do that." And your boys catch you doing it. You're like, "Well, man, you know. If somebody has you jumping through hoops to please them, and your mind is always on them, and all your efforts are for them, they have become a god unto you, and it's time for you to put them away. See, it's a harsh saying, but Matthew 18:8 says, "And if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away." It's better for you to enter life crippled or lame with 2 hands or 2 feet, 1 hand or 1 foot, to be thrown into eternal fire. That's right. You got to put some stuff away. So there's some stuff that needs to be thrown out of our lives. Some stuff that we need to abandon. Some stuff we need to desert. There's some stuff in our lives that we need to kill off and move on. All right. And see, it's a harsh saying to say abandon your stuff and abandon your relationships. Am I right? That's right. For many of us, it's enough to abandon the worship of those things and people by putting them in their proper place and prioritizing God above all. Yeah. For some of us, that's enough. We can hold on to that stuff. It's just a matter of prioritizing it and putting God before everything. Yeah. See, it's not wrong to have stuff as long as God gets all your worship. But some of us, we got to get rid of that stuff altogether. Because the very existence of this stuff in our lives is so influential that it's hard for us to serve God and hold on to that stuff. All right. That's why Matthew 5:30 repeats the words of Matthew 5:18, which says, "And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away, for it's better for you to lose one of your members than your whole body to go to hell." All right. And it's Mark 8:36, which says, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" Yeah. So some of us got to get rid of some stuff. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Who will you serve? What will you get rid of? What will you abandon? What will you throw out of your life? Decisions, decisions, decisions. Look at verse 15, would you? The Bible says, "If it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods your fathers serve in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord." Everyone is going to serve or worship someone or something. That's right. Let me say that one more time. Everyone is going to serve and or worship somebody or something. Be it one's own intellect and reason, be it some idol or some material thing, or be it the belief in a higher power. Everyone is going to serve and or worship someone or something. Yeah. In verse 15, Joshua speaks to the children of Israel and said to them, if serving God seems wrong to you, serving God is one choice. But if that choice seems wrong to you, you basically have two other options, Joshua says. Because you're going to serve somebody.
That's right.
The first option that he lists is serving the gods of their fathers, the ones they served when they were in Egypt.
Yeah.
The second option he lists or mentioned is serving the gods of the Amorites in whose land they dwell. If you remember the story of the Israelites, they came into Egypt when Joseph brought his family there, when Joseph was the second in command in Egypt. And the Bible tells us that a day came when a Pharaoh arose that didn't know about Joseph, and he made all the children of Israel slaves in the land of Egypt.
Well,
for about 400 years or so, they were slaves until Moses came along and said, God said, let my people go.
yeah.
Then he went back and forth with Pharaoh, and God rained a lot of plagues down on Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, fine, get up out of here. I'm tired of this. Then the children of Israel trekked through the desert, but during those 400 years that they were in Egypt, they had forgot all about God.
Yeah.
They began to serve the gods of the Egyptians. They began to worship all these gods, which were little animals, and thinking that these animals had power. They were serving idols and serving themselves. They were serving the gods of the Egyptians.
Yeah.
So when Joshua said, one choice is to choose the gods your fathers served, he was saying, you can do what mommy and daddy did. You can do what mommy and daddy taught you to do.
Yeah.
You can rely on falling back on what you've always done because that's all you know. You can go and you can use that as an excuse that mama and daddy did it. It was all right for them, so it's all right for me. I've heard some folks say, I was born a Baptist, I'm going to die a Baptist. It was good enough for my mama and my daddy, so it's good enough for me. Whatever they did, I'm going to do because that's all I know. And Joshua said you can fall back on that if you want to.
Come on, man.
And serve the gods that your father served. You know what I found out as I got older? That not everything my mom and dad did was right. I found out that they did some, if it wasn't wicked to say stupid, I'd say they did some stupid stuff. You know, they did some things that just weren't right. Not everything mom and daddy did was right. Am I right? And you all can look back on your parents' lives and say, not everything my parents did was right. And you as a parent, you look back on your own life and say, not everything I did was right. And my kids are looking at me. So Joshua says, you can fall back on that if you want to. There's a story I like to tell. There was a lady, she was married, just got married. She was cooking for her husband some pot roast. I think I've told the story before. And every time she cooked the roast, she would cut off the end of the roast and stick it in the pan and cook it. One day her husband was putting on the roast and he asked his wife, he said, baby, why do you always cut the end of the roast off before you put it in the pan? She said, I don't know. So my mom always did it, so that's what I do. So she went and she asked her mom, and she was wondering now, Mom, why do you always cut off the end of the roast before you put it in the pan and cook it? She said, you know, honey, I really don't know. That's what your grandma always did. And when she taught me to cook, that's what I did. So now the mom is going to ask your grandma. She said, Mom, why did you teach me to cut the end of the roast off every time I cook it and put it in the pan? I just don't understand it. She said, well, baby, back in the day, you know, we were broke, we were poor, and we only had a pan that was this big. And so I had to cut the end of the roast off so I could put that roast in the pan. And so the mother and the daughter were doing the same thing that grandma did just because the grandma did it. Didn't even know why she was doing it. And sometimes we do the same thing with our worship. We're only doing things that have been handed down to us because that's all we know. We don't know why we're doing stuff that we do. Not everything that you've been taught is right.